Hello everyone, welcome to Yachting International Radio. I have Will from Ocean5 with us, such a privilege. So you're joining me, Karine, from the Crew Coach, and we're going to talk about resilience and mindset. Welcome, Will, and congratulations.
Hello, Yachting International Radio, and everyone listening in. Thank you very much, Karine. Glad to be here.
Good, lovely to have you. So when did you arrive? Not so long ago, last week Friday?
Friday at 3 a.m. in the morning local time, which all of our friends and family and supporters were so happy about, and all of the Atlantic Campaigns people were so happy about that they had to get up at that very unfriendly hour.
Yes, of course. So to give people a bit of background, you and your team rowed across the Atlantic to raise funds for Plastic Soup Foundation, and that is to combat plastic pollution. And I know a lot of yachties are aware of the pollution that exists and the extent of it. So those of you who are passionate about cleaning up our oceans, can people still contribute to the fundraising?
Yes, if you go to our website, which is theocean5.com, we have a GoFundMe page through there, which you can kind of donate through.
Okay.
To date, so we left the Canaries on the 12th of December, and 35 days, 18 hours later, we turned up in Antigua, rode 3,000 miles, and we've raised over £100,000 so far for our charity, and it's pretty cool.
What was your goal?
Our goal was we were looking at kind of hoping to do six figures. It was difficult. It does turn into kind of a part-time job, the whole preparation for the row and everything. And there were times where we, especially in the first kind of 6 to 12 months, we didn't think we were going to hit our goal and hit our kind of achievement, but we learned a lot around sales and marketing and all that kind of stuff, and you're just going to keep going at it.
Okay, fantastic. So can you tell us a bit about your experience and what happened out at sea? I'm sure some periods were easier than others with you dealing the conditions that you had to be confronted with. So can you tell us a bit about those challenging conditions and how you used your mindset to overcome them?
It was challenging from basically the get-go. We came out of La Gomera. We were trying to hit this. There's a waypoint they set off of an island that you've got to hit. And for us to get to that waypoint, we wanted to stay as north as possible, but we had to obviously get south of this waypoint. And we ended up in Beam on Seas. We got pushed down a wave and we snapped 2 oars within the first 12 hours of being out there. So we only had 2 spare oars, so we snapped both our spare oars in the first 12 hours, and a wave came over the back of the boat when one of the guys was coming out of the aft cabin, and they got about 50 litres of water into the cabin, and all of this within the first 12 hours. 3 of us got seasick and were kind of making a bit of a mess of the deck. And I remember I was in the cabin, I was kind of like, I don't think we're ready for this. Like, this is full on. And so we then spoke to the safety officer for the race. We said, look, we're not able to maintain this heading and get south of this waypoint. And he said, look, none of the other teams are able to either. Don't worry about getting south of it. You can kind of change your heading. So we changed our heading. And then from there, we kind of got into the mix, got into the rhythm. And the other day 5 was another bad one. Got really, really rough. There was a front that moved down through the whole of the Atlantic, and it ended up super rough. Again, boat getting thrown all over the shop. And it's days like that where you're in the cabin, you're getting tossed around, and you just don't want to get on the oars. You're not really sleeping. We were doing a 2-hour on, 2-hour off watch schedule. So you'd row for 2 hours. Then you'd kind of come off the oars, eat, sort yourself out, sleep for probably an hour and a half, hour and 40 minutes, and then get up and row again. I was finding I was only sleeping at night, so when kind of in the dark hours. So you had three rest periods when it was dark, and I was probably getting 4 to 4.5 hours sleep a night. That was it.
And now, how's your sleeping patterns at the moment?
So last night was my first full night's sleep, and today I felt more tired than I have for the last month.
Yeah, I heard that's very common. Yeah.
The first couple of nights I kept waking up trying to find the oars, thinking that I should be rowing.
Yeah.
So that was a good one. And my hands, I wake up in the morning and I struggle to close my hands any more than about that.
Yeah.
So I've got to massage all of the fingers. And
we spoke about claw hands at the last interview. So did that happen then?
Yeah. One of the guys, Chris, he's got the opposite. So his hand locks on like that, and he actually has to pry every single finger open about 4 or 5 times every morning just to get them to work. And mine's the opposite. It's about that, and I can't actually close my fingers.
Wow.
There's a guy from one of the Danish teams. I met him yesterday. He had to give one of his team members morphine last night because his hands were locked like this, and they swelled up to about twice the size, and they were bright purple. And he had to give him morphine so he could sleep. It's brutal on your hands.
Gosh. So did anyone feel like giving up?
What I say is there were a lot of times that I didn't enjoy, but I did love the whole kind of process of it. But I know that some of the lads, we had a kind of discussion, and some of the lads were saying, if we could take 10 or 12 days out of the middle, they would. If you could wave like a magic wand and just take 10 to 12 days out of the middle, they would do that. But for me, it's kind of like, it's the whole process. You're there to do. One of the things that kind of makes it, it makes it kind of a test of your mental kind of fortitude and your strength is getting up day in, day out, 6 days straight, 2 hours on, 2 hours off, and making it happen. And I now have a lot more respect for people who've done the race, but also a lot more of an understanding of where my high points and my low points, and like how far I can push myself. And if you find that you can do something like that and stay optimistic and wake up 10 minutes before, get on the oars and pull for 2 hours, you prove something to yourself.
So tell me more about the world record, and then I want to hear more about who's left out there in the ocean and still coming across to Antigua, because I'm flabbergasted. I don't know how they are still out there doing that.
So we set ourselves, about 12 months ago, we set ourselves three goals, and we kind of ranked them in priority from 1 to 3. So priority 1 was that we would finish, all 5 of us would finish the race still as friends, still enjoying each other's company, still wanting to spend time with each other. Goal number 2 was to be competitive in the race. So actually, be in the top 5, actually be competitive and compete with the other teams. And the 3rd goal was to break the world record. And we kind of said, if it got to the point where we couldn't break the world record, we would still try and stay competitive. If we weren't able to be competitive, we would still concentrate on, and we kind of ranked them, 1 to 3, and what's the most important, and which ones are we willing to kind of sacrifice to keep the other ones.
Okay. And
we managed to finish the race and do all 3. So we broke the world record by 23 hours. We were the 4th team. It's pretty cool.
Wow.
We were the 4th team across the line. 5-man teams are usually struggle to be competitive against 4-man teams, because you've actually got an extra the extra weight. And
Mm.
if it's windy, if it's above 20 knots of wind, that extra rower doesn't make any difference. But thanks to kind of the fact that three of us were sailors, we understand points of sail, we understand how to live on the boat. Those things were huge for us. And we were very kind of, we were very clever with our route. So we covered about 50 miles less distance than any of the other teams. So
Wow.
we were kind of very on it with where we were going and our route and that kind of stuff.
Yes.
And that just makes a huge difference.
Yeah. Gosh. So how many are still left out there?
There are, I think there are 9 or 10 teams who've come in now. And there are still 25 to come.
So is there a boat that's following you guys to make sure that everyone's safe?
So there are 2 40-foot sailboats that leave from La Gomera. They leave about a week after we headed off.
Yeah.
One of the boats kind of races to the front of the fleet, and one of them follows behind the last boat. But we didn't see another rowing boat, and we didn't see the support boat for the entire time we were out there. It's a completely unsupported row. You leave La Gomera and you're on your own. You make all your own water, you carry all your own food, you have all your own medical supplies. The Danish guys I was talking about, one of them, he smashed the oar into his knee, which pushed skin particles into the fluid of his knee, and his knee ballooned up to 3 times the size. And they ended up basically giving him antibiotics and massaging his knee and cutting it open and all this other kind of stuff at sea. And then he said 12 hours after them doing that, he was back on the oars rowing.
That's insane. So not seeing anyone, and I know that you had satellite because we spoke on the phone, and did you experience any sort of cabin fever per se?
Surprisingly not. I remember watching a video of a guy who did the Pacific, and he spent 209 days on his own rowing across the Pacific. He was rowing for 18 hours a day, resting 6 hours. And what he actually said was he found he was closer to his friends and his family out there than he was in normal life.
Yeah.
Because he would say, I'm going to phone this person tomorrow in this hour block.
Okay.
And they would make time to speak to him. There were no distractions.
Yes.
And he found out, loads about them and what they were doing and how their life was going, that kind of stuff. And I found actually something similar was, you've got this 2-hour block of time, especially during the daytime. I wasn't sleeping. It's about 40 degrees in the cabin. So you just need something to distract you. And I was phoning people up and having a chat, and there was nothing to distract me and to kind of pull me away from that conversation. And the other person on the other end of the phone, they're like, wow, Will's out at sea, he's in the middle Atlantic, I'm going to give him my undivided attention. So you found you having these really good, deep and meaningful conversations with people that you probably never have in in normal day-to-day life. So I actually found the opposite. I didn't find I had kind of cabin fever at all.
Well, good, because you look pretty sane to me.
I mean, behind the eyes, it's all gone off.
And any aha moments, having all that time alone and all that space, any significant life realizations or anything like that?
I realized that I absolutely love doing these kind of expeditions and adventures. So I really want to do more of them. I've already kind of got a few ideas of things that I'd like to do in the future. One of the big things for me, I've been known to be quick to kind of flare up. I've definitely got a bit of a redhead temperament, and out there when you've got 5 of you living on a boat, and each of you's got about a meter of space to themselves at any one time. As a team, all of us at one point in time kind of flared up at the other people, and we realised that the best way to do it is you flare up, you take yourself away for 10, 20, 30 seconds, have a think about why you flared up, what caused you to do it, and then you just kind of come back and you say, look, the reason I flared up was why this, and we squashed any kind of issues within a minute. And it was amazing as kind of a tool that you can use in later life in any kind of management position or anything like that. Don't let anything fester. Just rip the Band-Aid off and say, look, my fault. I did it because of this. You did this. It's me off. Damn. Yeah. And just get it sorted.
Yes. So those crew members or the general public out there who have a challenge or a goal that they would like to achieve, but fear is stopping them for whatever reason it is, what is your advice to them?
Get started. Honestly, the best thing we did was actually just get started. We got together for a planning session at Kev's place, and Kev's done all this really cool stuff. And one thing that he's kind of developed is this leadership plan, and it's called a 1,000-day plan. So you make a 1,000-day plan, and you set out exactly what you're going to do, and you're going to achieve over 1,000 days. You could shorten that to 500 days or however long it's got to fit your. But then you keep yourself accountable that every single day you review what you've done. But you just get started. If it's a challenge where you need to raise sponsorship, then just start. What do I need? I need a website. I need social media. I need brand. I need to start making phone calls. What's my USP? Why would people give me money? And just start making phone calls. Start talking to people. Find people who've done it before. So most things out there, you're doing a marathon or you're doing the Atlantic Row or whatever it is, find people who've done it before and just get advice and just get started. Because as soon as you get started, you start to then break it down into manageable chunks, and it isn't this massive whole scary thing. It starts to become, well, I can get that done. Once that's ticked off, then I can do that, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, usually when we're fearful, we perceive it to be a lot more encompassing than it actually is. And once you get started, you realize, oh, it's not that bad. And when you break it down into actionable steps, then you see yourself starting to move forward. And it's not as difficult as what you thought it would initially be.
One of the big things for me was I know where my strengths and weaknesses lie, so I'm great at getting started. I'm fantastic at ideas. I'm great at getting started. Where I actually do struggle is kind of staying the course. And I recognize this in myself. So I built a team around me of people so Kevin and Matt, they had both achieved the North Pole, the South Pole. They're people who kind of, they stayed the course. They might not be as quick to kind of get started as I am, and they might not come up with as many kind of ideas and that kind of stuff, but you've got to recognize where your strengths and your weaknesses lie. And that was great for us kind of getting to, for being so well prepared. We kind of turned up in La Gomera, and for raising the sponsorship also and stuff, is that we had people who kind of fitted into roles and made it happen. So that's the other thing I would say to anyone looking at doing something is be very critical on where your strengths and weaknesses lie, and then recruit or find people to either help or be part of your team who strengthen your weaknesses.
Well said. And it goes exactly the same for crew in their respective departments. You need self-awareness. You need to have a fundamental understanding of your weaknesses and your strengths. And you need to be able to be vulnerable to admit to your own shortcomings or mistakes.
Yeah, be critical of yourself. Just don't. don't hide from it. Nobody's perfect.
Mm, mm. Well, thank you so much, Will, and congratulations for accomplishing what you guys have done and also all your goals. That's fantastic, and I wish you all the very best, and thank you for joining the Crew Coach on Yachting International Radio.
And if anybody out there wants to do the row, feel free to reach out through Instagram to the Ocean5 and, ask us any questions. And we're more than kind of happy to offer any advice and the assistance we can to any yachties out there who want to undertake a very, very silly adventure.
Awesome. Thanks so much again.
Cool. Cheers, Karine.
Bye.